So I'm making a video in response to the two videos that we had to watch for the Developing Worlds class. So the first video was a woman talking about basically women being equal to men in the world, and how gender equality has affected so many things in the world. So one of the points that she made was really interesting to me. She said that there's this one girl who she wasn't going to have the opportunity to go to school, and she was actually in school for a little while. She was one of the top students in her class, but her parents had to pull her out because they couldn't afford to fund her education. And so she was pulled out of school, but apparently the news got hold of this information and they raised about $10,000, and so the principal was able to get her going back to school, and eventually she was very successful, and she was able to do great things and affect not only her own family but also her community as a whole. And they built roads to this kind of rural part of China, and they're able to kind of improve as a community just because she had received an education, and because she knew, because she went to primary school and also high school and college, I believe. So I really thought it was interesting that she pointed out, we all have our separate roles in this world, and even if it's something small that we're doing, we can definitely affect the people around us. And I think that's very true. She was very passionate about this subject, and she seemed to be maybe a little bit disappointed that in the world in general, I guess, that people have been selfish up to this point, and that we kind of just write it off that there's a lot of people struggling in this world, and especially women who are being treated poorly, and they have so much potential in the world. And as Latter-day Saints, obviously we learn a lot about that and the roles of men and women, and I think that even if you're not Mormon in the church, it's so prevalent that men and women have different roles. And we've talked a lot about this in our class recently, and I think that there's kind of an ideal role that men and women fill. And usually, more often than not, we do fill those roles, not because we feel obligated to, just because it naturally happens. And so, if you think about it, in different communities around the world, this is kind of what she's talking about. They miss out because the women aren't contributing as much as, or they are contributing a lot more than the men are, but at the same time the men kind of run those countries and those communities. And so later on she was talking about how Bill Gates, he was talking to a group of people, and he said, if you want to make it to the top, then you have to realize that you're only using half of your resources. And by that he was talking about they're only using the men in that country to climb to the top or to become technologically advanced above all the other countries. But I believe that one of the reasons that America is flourishing is because we have equal, we're striving to have equal rights in this country, and to view men and women as equal. And I think that we have seen in America that there are certain jobs that men are better at and certain ones that women are better at. And of course, a woman could be just as good at being a construction worker or an auto maintenance worker, but if we only had men in all of these roles, we would miss out on a lot of the opportunities that we would have to grow as a country. And so I think that's one of the reasons that we as the United States are flourishing, as well as other countries that are striving towards gender equality. And so I thought it was interesting that we were supposed to watch another video by a man named Hans Rosling, I believe, and he was talking about the washing machine and just how big of a difference that can make. Kind of the theme going here that I saw was that by little things, great things are come to pass. And so he told a story about how his grandmother received a washing machine, you know, later on, once he was a small boy and he was living with his parents and everything. And so they were both just so amazed by this washing machine, his mother and his grandmother, and it opened new doors and new opportunities for them. I don't remember what country he was from, but it was just interesting to see how that affected their family, and later how that would affect the community, because if the mother has more time to educate her children, to educate Hans, her son, then he receives that education and is able to succeed more in life in an academic sense. And I think that in other countries they spend a lot of time, you know, in third world type countries, they spend a lot of time washing their clothes and making food and going to get clean, fresh water. And they spend all day doing those things, and by the time they're done, they don't have time for education. And those other things. They spend so much time solely just trying to live, trying to survive. And that reminds me of the Time for School video that we watched a couple weeks ago, and how there was a young girl who was able to attend school, but eventually she had to, she was really enjoying it and stuff, but eventually she had to drop out because there was something going on in her family with the farm, and she had to take care of the farm instead of going to school. And so eventually she fell so far behind that when she re-entered school, she entered with younger children, and she felt very uncomfortable, and I think she eventually dropped out again. So we can see, as a third-party observer, I can see that the concept of the washing machine is just so prevalent in today's world, and we have so many things that we see as simple in America, but really it goes back to what the First Lady was talking about in her TED Talk, and she said that we are always looking for happiness, but it has been proven that once we reach the point where we are living, you know, pretty comfortably, we have the things that we absolutely need, there's nothing besides serving others and doing those sorts of things that will make us happy. We can't find happiness in possessing more. Really, it just comes from having as much as you need, and then from other external sources. And so she said that we have a responsibility to help those of other countries, and that even if we do just a little bit, it can affect a community and individuals and people in the world for the better. And so that's it.